Welcome to Soulful Sundays. Welcome to Soulful Sundays, where we are bringing you soul-inspired conversations around the island in the kitchen. We are women of all different walks of life, and we have so many different stories and journeys and experiences, and we decided to bring you a show to talk, to share, to inspire, to empower, and to just have conversations about life, about the things we are going through, about sisterhood. What a better place to do it than in the kitchen, where we as women love to cook. So I am Lena Anthony, your host, and this is my co-host, beautiful spirit-led sister Judy Johnson.
Hello.
And this is my other co-host, my beautiful spirit-led sister Ty French.
Hello.
Today on Soulful Sundays, we are talking about identity. We have a very special guest. Her name is Jennifer Freeman. Jennifer Freeman is an actor, she's an author, and she's a mother. And she is another one of our spirit-led sisters. So today, we are going to talk about who we really are and really get a hold of our identity and talk about these identity issues that society tried to put on us. And really just talk about our spiritual identity.
Before we start, I would like to get a glass of that.
Yes!
Same.
All right.
Thank you, darling. It's okay.
Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
Soulful Sundays.
Okay, so
Very nice.
Delicious.
Rosé.
as far as identity, who are we? Like, who are you? Not who are you in the industry, but who are you as a child of God, as a mother, as a wife, as an actor, as an entertainer? Who are you? Because society, or I would say the definition according to the Webster's Dictionary, or dictionary.com, because we all do use Google.
Keep it real.
Right.
Identity says that it is the condition or circumstance of who you are, or your religion, your culture, your spiritual views. It's basically a worldly definition.
Yeah.
And for me, identity is the source of your confidence and being in this world. But the source for me is God. So for me, identity is knowing where my identity came from. And so in order for me to fulfill my identity, to know what my identity is, I have to know who my God is. I have to know who I really am. So I mean, how do you define identity?
It's funny because when we talked about this idea of sitting down and opening it up, I was like, the struggle was real. The struggle was real because a lot of times we hold in who we are, or we project who we're supposed to be. So over time, at least for me, the identity thing was, I was always told who I'm supposed to be. So I internalized that, and then I go to the world, I'm like, well, according to this, I'm supposed to be this kind of daughter, and this kind of mother, and this kind of actor. But at the core of it, identity is, in my opinion, just a reflection. It's a reflection. It's how I see myself and how I want the world to see me. And before walking in, being connected with God, it was literally whatever I put into me, that's what my identity was. So what I was listening to, what I was watching, who I was around, I was reflecting them. And it wasn't always good. Because my club days and my outfits was terrible. Only because of who I was around. But now, when you're plugged in to a source that is larger than life, that supersedes life and supersedes time, you have to still spend time learning what your identity is.
Yeah.
And that's where I am.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, I know I reflect you, but what does that mean for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And identity changes
Yes.
because with identity there's growth. Because I know I've been so many different people just in my 20s and then to my 30s.
Yeah.
I'm different. And it doesn't mean that I didn't know who I was. That could be part of it. But you always know a bit of you. You're
Yeah.
kind of naturally yourself, period, all the time, even if it's that part of you that you don't like. And when you grow, and I've experienced some growth where it felt awkward and weird, and I think we all have, and that's a growing pain.
Right,
and that's
right.
why it's called growing pains. And they're not talking about physical growing pains that kids
Right.
get. Like, it's really challenging and awkward and weird when you have to kind of change how you think about something, mainly yourself and how you react and you learn about yourself.
Yeah.
I've learned so many things about myself.
Yeah.
Some things we resist when
Yeah.
we hear about ourselves, but if that's how the world sees you,
Guilty.
hears you,
Right.
that's what you're giving off. And
Yeah.
if that's not who you want to be or who you feel you are, then that's something we have to work on.
Right.
And I constantly work on that.
Absolutely.
Constantly.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think for me, identity, I think is broken down into three things: self-image, self-worth, and your self-esteem. So your self-image is how you see yourself, because of things that you've been through in life. And then self-image is, what you think about yourself, your thoughts. And then self-worth is like what you believe about yourself.
Yeah.
So, all these different experiences that we go through in life from childhood, play into a part of how we see ourselves and our identity, and all these three different things, which is something that I think you're always picking up information, and it's always constantly evolving and changing, and it's really important to try to do that self-work
Yeah.
all the time,
that
so
part.
that you're in the right space.
Yeah.
I
I want to talk about that a little bit because you mentioned childhood, and honestly, that's where our identity stems from.
Yes.
Because when we come out of our mother's womb, that's our reality,
Right.
our parents. So our identity it's really formed from them.
Right.
It's funny you say that, because my mother was such a quiet woman that you didn't know what she was thinking. Like, Mommy, what are you thinking? What do you think about this? And I would try to pry to figure out what's going on with her, but she never really told me who I was. Besides a good, quiet child, be quiet. Go to school and get good grades and things like that. But it didn't really grow me or mold me or prepare me for what high school had offered and what extended beyond high school.
Yeah.
What do you say to someone where you have a strong person to look at and to draw from, but not someone speaking into you?
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that when you weren't really told at a young age, you're great?
Yeah. It's funny. That's a good question. So for me, it was a little different. So I had the same kind of lifestyle growing up. Like, my mom wasn't a person where it was like, oh, I am the example. You should, this is how you should be, or this is how life should be, and this is how you should do things. Right. Like, I've never seen my mother married. When it came to raising her kids, she wasn't the best. So it wasn't like I was never the person like, okay, I'm going to be like my mother. I'm going to raise my kids this way. And it honestly took me just navigating life and going through my 20s and getting pregnant and having these different experiences and just having my own journey that I had to really figure out, okay, what is Lena identity? Like, what do I really want? And I could not figure that out on my own because I tried to in the world.
Right.
I tried to in college. I've tried to having boyfriends and different girlfriends, but I couldn't figure it out until I realized who my source was, because he is the giver of identity.
Right.
But to answer your question, because I know you asked, and I know it's kind of hypothetical perhaps, like, how do you deal with growing up and you don't have that parent?
You don't even know you need to be told. I didn't know I need to be told you're this or you're that or you're
You need
great.
to be, kids
you
need to be affirmed.
They need to be affirmed.
They do.
And the thing is, with parents, especially, growing up, when we grew up, we weren't in the time of technology and all this stuff where kids can find
Oh my gosh.
encouragement online with quotes or whatever, cool pages that they follow. But I think because there's no parenting handbook, there are now. But I mean, there's no rule book. I mean, there's no
Right.
How to be a mom 101.
parenting guides and stuff stuff like that, but they give you tips. But I'm saying there's
But it's
no.
also a different generation then. Our parents are
Yeah.
from a different generation
That's
where
true. Right.
it wasn't like now, affirmation and a physical
Right,
touch.
right, right.
Yeah.
They were like a roof over your head. I sent you to
Exactly.
school.
Exactly.
What else? I love you.
Let me tell you, my
What else do
mom
you
would
want?
say to me, listen, all I got to do is feed you and make sure you got a roof over your head. That was
Exactly.
Well, see, I have a different experience. I
You
had
do.
both my mother and my father, and they're still together today. They've been married 36 years.
That
It
is such a
truly a blessing. And as a kid, you don't think that because you grow, like you
That's
said,
your norm.
that's my norm,
Right.
and that's the norm we saw on television. You know what I mean? And I have one sibling, so 2 kids, 2 parents. Sometimes a dog, throughout our lives. And so they were very nurturing, but not in, not coddling. As babies, I'm sure, but they've had full-time jobs. My parents are LAPD, so my mother was LAPD, my dad, he was a detective. He finished his career as a detective, my mom as a captain. So they had very important jobs, but still my mother never made her job an excuse why she couldn't provide that support. She always took us to our extracurricular activities. If we wanted dance class, so I felt loved because we had that support. Our parents
Right.
always did that. My dad was with my sister playing basketball. My mom was with me in dance, and so I don't really recall. And I said this to my mom before, which is interesting. I'm like, I have friends that say, my mom always said this, or my grandma always said this. I'm like, my mom never always says anything. And a part of that, I was like, I want that. I hear people with these verbal quips and things that they say all the time that kind of guides their life. My mom and dad were figuring it out, so on the outside looking in, you could say, as you said before to me, like we were like the Huxtables, but.
let me just explain that comment. Listen, I love her parents.
I love your parents.
I know.
I've been out here in LA for almost 8 years. I've been a friend of Ty for almost 5 years now, and her parents has literally taken me and my family in like their own. Like we call them mom and pops. Like my son called them grandma and grandpa. Like that's how beautiful they are. So listen, you're blessed.
Thank you. And I received that, but it wasn't always easy. It wasn't always beautiful. You know what I mean? I was more the rebellious type. And we'll get more into that as we get into deeper about our identity.
You had it all,
But my parents thought I was going to be a detective like them because I was kind of, I concocted things in my head. I strung things together. And so they thought, oh, you're going to be a great detective. And I'm a creative.
Right.
I'm a writer. I'm a director. I'm in everything.
Yeah.
I'm a multi-hyphenate.
Right.
And they still support me in that. So, but it wasn't always what people think. It's still not storybook. It's still not textbook even. It's they're human.
Yeah.
And they come from different walks of life, and they're trying to come together to build this household. And they got these 2 girls, and they're like, what do we do?
Right,
And so I had to figure out who I was. People thought because my parents were LAPD that, oh, you probably this, you probably that, it's probably strict. They put a lot of probablys on me. And it was none of that. I was none of that. And then some of it, I was trying to prove that I'm definitely not. I'm cool. I could be down. I could, And not only that, I'm from the Valley of California. So people think, oh my God, like we talk like this, and we don't know, we're not cultured, and it's not the truth.
The only person I know that's from the
California.
No.
Okay, yeah,
LA.
that's true. That is true.
Like from the Valley. And so, I had that identity issue too growing up, and my parents never spoke to that. I remember my sister especially, kids in school would ask her, why do you talk like you're white? White?
Wow.
She's like, I don't talk white, I talk right.
Come on.
And so people, they had their reaction too, and some people were like, what? They didn't get it. We were young. We were in elementary school, middle school, and it's just, we're different. We're not, like I said, we're not like anybody else, and even in that, we've grown and had so many different spaces in our family, who we are to each other. Like, I can say today that with my family, we're friends. I love hanging out with them. But it took a lot to get there. My sister was kind of always on that plane with them. She was type A. She did everything right, by the book, a great daughter, a daughter you would want to have, and me, I'm the daughter you want to get back. I was that way, you know what I mean? And so...
But I mean, look at you now.
I know.
You're amazing.
Well, hey, thank you. But that's through the growth and the struggle of who I am. I still am changing constantly, trying to figure out, yes, I'm a married woman now, but I'm not a mother. I know all 3 of you here are mothers. I'm not a mother yet. that separates us. That's cool because it gets some diversity up here. But no, I really look forward to that. And I, listen to you guys and watch you with your baby and you with your son who's 9 and you with your daughter. Just
My son is 11.
11. I don't know why I said 9.
I did not hear that.
Taki's not
He would be like, excuse me.
9 plus 2. I meant 9 plus 2. But still, just to see the different ages, because she is like practically a newborn.
Yeah.
And so I learned from that too. And so my identity as a mother, soon to be discovered. But
Man.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this book you have
Yes.
because she has a book called Journey to Loving Yourself as it relates to identity. Can
Yes.
you talk about that?
Yes, so it's a 21-day devotional, and it's broken down by chapters of self-image, self-esteem, and self-worth. And it's basically my journey to loving myself because my whole life I did not love myself. So I basically came to a point where I was just like destroyed. I feel like my life was crashing down. I didn't know what was going on, but I just know I needed to change. And so I just was like, God, like, if you are real, like, help me. Because I had been trying to figure out my life by myself. And even though I knew God and I went to church sometimes, I didn't really have a relationship. So I just was, just trying to do things like on my own.
Yeah.
And just to kind of piggyback off of your guys' what you guys were just saying about I didn't have parental guidance. So I was raised by a single mom, and my mom was working full-time, going to school full-time. So I was always at a babysitter's house. Then when I was 3, I was molested by my mom's boyfriend. And then I couldn't tell her because I felt like then she wasn't going to want to be around me, or she might do something so I just wanted her to love me, right? And she really didn't have time for me anyway. So then she later got into an abusive relationship when I was like 5 or 6 with my stepdad, and he was always trying to kill us. He was a police officer. So we couldn't go anywhere. We moved like all the time, and he found us and his friends because he was a police officer. She called the police. His friends would come. He was an alcoholic. So that was basically my entire childhood. So I became like the mom. I became like, I have twin sisters who are, they're 10 years younger than me. So I became like the head of the household, the protector of my mom. I was like protecting my mom from this guy, trying to fight him off of her. And then she eventually left him. And because I said, Mom, like, we have to go. Like, we have to get out of here. And I'll make money. Like, I'll figure out a way to make money. So then that's how I got into acting.
Wow.
So I was like, I got approached by a manager in a grocery store. And this manager was like, your daughter's so talkative, like, because I just talk. And then the manager was like, it's not gonna cost me money. I can take her up to LA. Like, she will work. And then like a month after that, my mom moved to Bakersfield with this guy. And so I kept begging her, like, Mom, like, and like everywhere we would go, like I would always get stopped to like do a commercial or something like that. So my mom was like, maybe there is something to this. So immediately when we moved back, I started working. And so then that's how I kind of provided a better way of life for us. And we got away from like this situation that was bad. But in that, money and fame, and that doesn't really solve anything, right?
Right. It's a Band-Aid.
No.
It's a Band-Aid. So it's a Band-Aid. It covers up things for a while, and then, things start peeking out through, they were never really fully fixed. So that's kind of what happened with me. Like, for a while, everything was great, right? On the outside, I was like, my mom doesn't have to work. Like, she can be with my sisters, and, she was there. We were a happy family. And then, I got into an abusive relationship. I still had, I was so broken. I had basically just put a Band-Aid over everything, and I never really dealt with what was on the inside of me. So I really, my whole identity now was in people telling me what I was.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'm beautiful. Oh, you think that I'm beautiful? Oh, you think that I'm talented? Wow, I didn't know. Okay. So I guess I'm all these things that these people are saying, and but my self-worth was still, I was still full of shame and guilt because I was abused as a child and by my, you know, mom's boyfriend, and all these different things had happened to me. So they just really played out into, you know, me just being self-destructive. I was suicidal, I was depressed, and then I was like, I felt like I was lonely because I couldn't tell anyone, because from the outside looking in, right in this industry, I was put together. I had everything anyone could ever want, and like I could buy anything, but I did not love myself. I did not. I didn't know I didn't know what that was. So I thought, oh, I'll just get married. I'll have a kid. I'll be a mom. Maybe I'm a mom. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the hole that I'm trying to search for. This like this feeling of like feeling empty inside and trying to figure out like, who am I? You know? And then when I wasn't like on a hit show anymore, and then all the people went away or whatever, then I was like, well, I don't know, like, well, who am I? Am I a failure? Am I, you know, like all these things. So God finally, you know, just dealt with me on all of those levels, and I like wanted to be able to help anyone else in my shoes by writing this devotional. Kind of, he took me through this process of really going back to my childhood, and I had to go step by step on this journey for almost 8 years.
Wow.
That
so
it took me
powerful.
to undo, and so that's why I put it in a book, because I was like, wow, if I would have known this at 12, my life could have been so different.
That is so powerful.
And not that this was my journey and this is purpose, right? I was like, God, like, you know, just use what I've been through to help someone. You know, that's really like my heart. So that's why I wrote the devotional. And it's a journey. Like, I'm not like, you know, there's never a place of arrival. You know, I feel like it's always constantly. There are always constants. There are always levels. There's always, you know, and things are always happening in life. So you're always having to self-evaluate. Okay, like, well, what is that thought, and why is that there? How did that, you know? And so
that's so beautiful though, because so many people go through so many things in life, and just like you, like I too had, you know, I had a child at a young age, so it was like, okay, maybe I'm a mom, you know, and then it was like, okay, I wasn't fulfilled, okay, so let me go get married. Oh, okay, maybe I'm a wife, okay, that still didn't make me whole, you know. It's like we try to use all of these things, our careers, our family, just people in the world, to figure out who we was. And the same thing happened to me 2 years ago when I was getting ready for my second marriage, the marriage that I'm with now, the love of my life. But it was like, okay, God said, well, before you become his wife, let me show you who you are. And he took me on a journey where I had to affirm myself every day. And within doing that, I also wrote a book. And it's an affirmation journal. And it's a 30-day journal to my thing was, because I had a child, I was like, okay, if my son know what I know now, what I know in my 30s, he would be so much more powerful when he get to my age. So I started having my son, like, okay, you be the example of this book. Start affirming yourself now. We would do it together. And the confidence, the self-esteem, the power that my 11-year-old son carry, and also what I carry now, it's so powerful. So I just wanted to like commend you for that, because that's big, because it's just, I didn't even know that we had that in common. Like, wow.
A lot of people go through experiences where, again, you think you have to hold it in.
Right.
But you don't realize so many other individuals that are very successful experience the same woes of, I have a secret and I can't tell.
Right.
But that is the thing that liberates people.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
thing that gives us
Yes.
the permission to say, you know what?
That breaks the shame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because everybody can relate to some kind of story
Yeah.
of trauma.
Yeah.
No
Right.
matter how small the trauma or how intense,
Yeah.
anybody can relate. We've all gone through it.
Yeah.
So I think sharing that, instead of feeling like, oh, people are going to know
Yeah.
I'm so exposed, so vulnerable,
Yeah.
people are going to judge me.
Yeah.
How dare they judge? If they are
Yeah.
without sin, cast the first stone. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right.
And I'll say this too, because one of the things that I find to be really, really confusing, even for myself, I'm so guilty of this, is seeking. Go finding this thing that liberates you. Go finding the book that you need to read. Finding the mentor that you need to be around
Yeah.
that can pour into the image that you are, the becoming of who
Right.
you are.
Right.
Just like how with my mom, it's one of those things where she didn't really say anything, and in my 30s, I took the liberty to say, Mommy, what's up with this? What happened here? What's going on with this? What's going on? And even though she's very, very careful to give me bits and pieces, that's the same thing we have to do with the Father.
Yeah.
And I'm having this epiphany to say, Judy, go search deeper, because as much as I think I know now, there's so much more to learn. And the power that Taiki walks in, that's that I want that power.
Yeah.
That no matter what, however I'm evolving and changing, I can still be solid to the core
Absolutely.
because of what I know.
Absolutely.
Because I found it out for myself.
But the beauty is what she said, and like what I said, a lot of times we're so busy trying to get the world to define us, and that's why we go look for these self-help books. And we go Googling the internet, but I have to say it again. It comes down to really knowing who our real biblical father is.
Now I'll tell you, I've read quite a few of these self-help books, and there's a lot of scriptures in there though, which it goes right back to it. Almost everyone, and even if they're not quoting the scripture, it's biblical practices and principles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, did they read that from the Bible? Because that is exactly what it
Right.
says in Romans 8.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. I'm not saying self-help books are bad. I'm saying because a lot of these people, like, you know, Cindy Trim, who's a prophetess, and her self-help books are from God. But I'm just saying, like, it's just something to say when people are just trying to figure themselves out through other people and do it online. It's just that's not how you're going to find yourself, because you're going to always be searching.
Right.
Because what you got to get down to the core.
The core.
Who created you? You can't figure out who your identity is until you figure out who created me. Who is the creator of identity? Who is the creator of love? The creator of a father, a mother.
Yeah.
That's the only way we can really figure out our identity.
Yeah, and for me, like, I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't identify what was wrong. I was like, it was playing out in all these symptoms in my life, and like me choosing like bad relationships, and I'm like, but like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing that? Where is the hurt stemming from?
Yes.
I didn't even remember that I was molested. Like, I didn't remember, you know, and then I started God, like, it was really me sitting with God,
Yeah.
you know, and saying, like, what is wrong with me? How did I get here?
Wow.
And allowing him as my father, because he knows everything,
Yeah.
to really heal me in those places the way I needed healing. So that's like nothing I could get from a book. I read a million books.
Yeah.
I was like, what book can I read now? You know, because I was desperate for help.
Yes.
I did Scientology, I did Buddhist, I did whatever. I did everything. Yoga.
Did you try therapy?
I tried therapy. The therapist told me, wow, it must be really hard to be you.
What therapist is this? We need to
Don't go back to that.
Because they don't always have the answer. They
Wow.
just like because
They get paid to listen to you.
it was a hard issue. And I mean, I have a Christian therapist, but the type of level of healing I needed was spiritual.
Yeah.
It was really just deep down in me, and there was no one that could do that but God.
Yeah.
And so even I want to say, like, you know, even if you don't have a mom or a dad and you didn't have that type of guidance, which I didn't have like guidance at all.
right.
Like, I literally came out and was like, I am going to be the hero of my family. And I was like, and there was no one for me. So it was like, I just kept trying all these things, right? And getting myself into bigger messes. And basically hurting myself more. But I'm saying that even if you don't have that, even if you don't have a mom that affirms you, even if you don't have the dad, even if you don't have the Huxtable family, or, you can still come out on the other side, because God always, like, we don't get to choose what happens to us in life, but God has already provided the restoration and the healing.
That's right.
All we have to do is come to Him.
Yeah.
So,
How do we find your book?
it's on Amazon.
So let's talk about who we are versus who the industry see us as.
Talk about that. I want to say, Mr. Hollywood, I am not a sex pot. Okay? I am more than what that
Amen.
is. No, I'm a queen.
All right.
All right.
Yes,
I am a woman that has authority, that has a voice to speak. So when it comes to storytelling, I'm a pool of emotions that run deep. So let's talk about the stories that highlight history. Let's talk about the stories that showcase women fighting, trailblazing, and kicking beep. Yes, I censored myself. But point blank, I am a sex bot.
Right.
I have a quick, interesting story. So, and I don't even think you know this, Lena. I don't think I've shared this, because some things I forget. Because I've been in the industry quite a while. I got my first agent when I was 13 years old. And I remember my first, they tell you when they sign you, you're going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes. However, I went out for this iPod commercial before iPod. It was the first commercial. I didn't even know what an iPod was. And I got it. It was my first one. So I was like, a lot of no's. I got this. And so I got the commercial. It was great. It was fun. 2 years later, I don't know if you guys remember the iPod commercials where it was the silhouettes dancing on the colorful background. Maybe. Yeah, it was a while ago. It was like 05. Yeah, camera girl remembers. Broke the first one. But my agent called me back, said, Apple, they just want me. You have to audition. We want you for this new one because we loved you last time.
Wow.
I had gained weight. And when they saw my new headshots, they were like, oh, no. We don't want her anymore. Because I had gained weight. Mind you, I was 18 at this time.
Wow.
And so I had just went to college. I'm sitting in the car in my car. I went to see Son at the parking lot like, wow. Because I had gained weight. And so my agent was like, okay, so you're at the point now where you're too big for the main girl and you're too small for the big girl, so choose, gain weight or lose weight. And I said, I didn't know she was being funny. Basically, like, lose weight and you're going to book roles, because I started going off for the bigger girl roles, but I wouldn't get them because I wasn't that big, And so just my identity in terms of that, what that did to me, I was like, I didn't want to go on any auditions. And I kept going out, and my agent called me the callback kid because I would always get callbacks or book the job. But that broke me and really made me my identity has become attached to my weight. Always, no matter, I've been bigger than I am now, I've been smaller than I am now in my adult life. And I'm constantly working, and my dad says it's a lifelong journey, and I get it. It's very difficult. But as my identity as an actor, like even now, I was sharing with some of you earlier that my new management, my new agency, they're fine with me. They're like, there's roles for you now, but I know me, the Ty that I am. I know what I'm supposed to be, and it's healthy.
Yes.
And that means not having excessive fat and all of that, because that's in my mind. So when I'm in an audition room, I'm thinking, how big do I look on that camera? I'm like, do I look bigger than that? And think about who I'm playing with, because there was the role I was telling you about. I went out the other day and I was like, I'm supposed to be playing next to this person. I think they're a little small. I don't know. I had to think about all of that, and that's attached to my identity as an actor and as a creator. So I went to the back and I was writing. I created my own company and, started doing stage plays and things like that, putting myself in things where weight wasn't even a part of the character description. It didn't matter what they looked like. It was about the talent. So I'll stop there because I could say so much about it, but just any girl who has any kind of weight issue can understand if they're in the industry that our identity is always, when I get the breakdown sometimes, it's the regular, audition, or sometimes thick girl, curvy girl, plus size. How should they see me? Well, that is who I am now because based in the industry. So I'm okay with that now because my agents are pushing me to go out. But I'm like, if you just give me some time, because I'm in the gym.
Yeah, like
who am I?
Them to see you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Who am I? I'm bold. I'm strong, and I'm a chameleon. I can be so many different things because I bless the Lord. I'm bless the Lord. I thank the Lord that He's blessed. That He's blessed me with a face that I look young. I can look very young if I don't have makeup on, so I can play a teenage role. So chameleon, really.
Yeah.
Like I want them to see the talent. So it's still a hard question to just give a flat answer. Like I'm this, I'm that. I just know that I'm a chameleon. I know that I take it very seriously, and that I'm blessed by God.
Yeah.
You know, I have talent and skill, and of course we constantly need to work on it. But that's who I am. I'm a chameleon. I'm strong. I'm bold, and a force to be reckoned with.
Amen.
I'm claiming that. I'm claiming
that, Mr. Hollywood.
Yeah, in front of the camera, not just behind, not just writing, but I'm a force to be reckoned with.
Well, I want to say that I am not just Claire.
We love Claire.
And I mean, I love that role, but I think sometimes when you play a role and then you're really known for that, then that becomes your identity, and people can only see you as that.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes that's hard in this industry to break out of that, and you're like, no, I can be anything.
Yeah.
You know, I grow up and I'm a woman. So I think that there's that, and I just think this industry, you know, can break you down, you know, because, you know, they're not compassionate. They don't care. So it's like you can be up for a role. Oh, you're too old, you know, or you're too young. You're too short. You're too big. You're too small. And then after a while, right, that starts to chip away at your identity about who you thought that you were.
Yeah.
And then you start to question and doubt and all these different things. So, I just wanted to say that, but also for me, I think a lot of people look at me externally in the industry, and they think that I'm one way, and I'm not. I'm smart. You know, I'm more than just physical. I'm smart. I'm funny. I'm educated. I am strong, and I don't think you can look at someone from the outside and be like, oh, they're just pretty, and you know, they're not strong, or you know, they're not bold, or you know, so that's who I am. Yeah.
And Lena?
So this was a question that God asked me. I literally heard from God, and He said, "Who are you?" And so when I wrote my book, my affirmation book, there's a section before you do anything else, you define who you are. So I had to define myself. I am a woman of God. I am a wife. I am a mother. I am an entertainer. I am a world changer. I'm a history maker. I'm a trailblazer. I am a force to be. I am a force to be reckoned. So it's not about, for me, it's not about Hollywood. I don't allow Hollywood to no longer define who I am, because I am more than what the industry tell you are. I remember coming out here and it was like, oh, cut your hair. Oh, change this. Oh, do this. Oh, your hairstyle should be this way. You got no.
Right.
I was so confused. And you will be confused. And you will lose yourself. And what I tell my mentees, stay true to who you are.
Right.
Because that is important. Because what we fail to realize is when we go into these rooms, whether it's a meeting, whether it's an audition, they want to know who you are. They may have wrote Natalia on the script and see her a certain way, but it's not until you come in a room and bring that essence and bring that that unique quirkiness, that funny girl, you know, that whatever, they are looking for that person. They're looking for you to really broaden their script. So I am not who you think I am. You have to get to know me. I define who I am because I know who my Father is.
And ultimately, the industry responds to authenticity.
Yes.
So the more you stay true to who you are, they say, oh, we want Layla like this. Oh, the character's like this. Can you be a little more like this? But then you'll see someone and they get the job or whatever, and you're like,
They're nothing like that.
they're nothing like what they said they wanted, right? Because they saw that they were authentic and they liked seeing just the truth of who they were. And then Prophet Levy said something this week. He said, the world responds to confidence.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
The world responds to confidence.
So
when you
it's
walk
true.
in confidence, the world responds to that.
Yeah. I'm just, just going to say, we as women of color, as entrepreneurs, mothers, wives, authors, actors, and spirit-led sisters, we here at Soulful Sundays inspire you to be bold and be courageous. Because remember, and that I don't care what your religion is, when you stay true to who you are and you know who you are and where you have came from, then you wouldn't have identity issues. So we thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next Sunday.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye. Cheers.
Soulful of life, soulful of love, soulful Sunday.